Hello, good afternoon. Hope you guys are all doing well. This is the bonus chapter that we get to cover. I'm super excited. We never get to cover this, but I polled the class, and all the responses that I received were that they wanted to do this. So we're going to talk through this. This isn't going to be a huge part of the test, but there are some things that I'd like to reference on our final exam with this. There's some cool things about all of this, and there's also some great things that are going to help your group, your band. I'm also going to, like the drum set video, I'm going to be sharing this with the Sioux City Symphony if they want to share this. This is our percussion week, so I'm going to do another introduction for me being the Sioux City Symphony, and then we'll get going with the lecture. Like I said, I'm going to cover most of the stuff that's in the book. The book starts with African music, goes to Afro-Cuban, and then goes to kind of the world tabla stuff. I'm not going to do a lot with the African stuff because that's not going to really help your band all that much. That's more of, if you want to get into the Afro stuff, the African stuff, that's something that for like a general music thing, if you have those drums, the rhythms are in there. Same techniques will apply to both. So we'll teach everything through this, which is the Afro-Cuban part, and then I'll talk a little bit about the last part, but again, the last part, the hand drums, the tabla stuff, aren't nearly as important to your group as this is, and the techniques transfer. And I have a frame drum that will do a little playing, and you can see how that works. So again, this is chapter, what chapter is this? Is it chapter 7, Percussion Instruments of the World, which we'll be talking through. And I'll do the 3 questions at the end of today, just like I did before. So I'll do the introduction for Sioux City Symphony, and then we'll get rolling here. Hello, my name is Darren Wadley. I'm the timpanist with the Sioux City Symphony, and I would like to share with you some information, some fun drumming styles as they relate to mostly Afro-Cuban styles, and some other world music that we might tie in. So I hope you enjoy this. All right, so for Afro-Cuban music, the most important rhythm, the rhythm that overrides all Afro-Cuban music is the clave. The word clave means key. Clave is both an instrument and a rhythm. You may have seen these. These are claves. These are rosewood claves, very high pitched. All right. They also make claves that are lower in pitch. These are kind of an African clave, they sometimes call them, and they go even lower than that. So you have a lot of different options to play. I like this better, so I'm going to use this one to demonstrate. I like the sound of it better. I'm going to be referencing an Afro-Cuban style sheet that I will that I'll send out to whoever would like it. I'll have this available, and you can reference it. It'd be a good thing to kind of have that sheet handy as we're talking through some of these ideas, because I'm going to reference the sheet. So clave, the cool thing about clave is that once it starts, it never stops in a tune, even if it's not being played. Right? The concept of clave, the rhythm of clave in a real Afro-Cuban tune, is a rhythm that is immutable. Right? It does not change from the beginning to the end of the tune. The tune dances around clave, but the clave rhythm never changes. Okay? So I'll demonstrate, and then we'll talk about what that means about changing and not changing. So the clave rhythm, we talk about clave rhythms as far as 3-2 or 2-3, right? So an example of a 3-2 clave rhythm has 3 notes in the first measure, 2 notes in the second measure, okay? So I'll count it off, and I'll play a 3-2 clave. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so you notice 3 notes in the first measure, 2 notes in the second measure. All right, we can also play clave backwards. We can do a 2-3 clave. All right? So we can do 2 in the first bar, 3 in the second bar, okay? So I'll play that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you have the 3-2 or the 2-3. And like I mentioned, that rhythm, once it starts, the tune is based off of it. So what the bass player is playing, what the percussionists are playing, what the piano player is playing, what the horns part is playing, what the vocal part is, they all fit clave. Okay, so you'll notice it's a 2-bar phrase, right? There's 3 in the first bar, so in the 3-2 clave, there's 3 in the first bar, 2 in the second bar. So you'll notice in most of our music, we have 2, 4, 8-bar phrases. Every once in a while, we have a 1-bar phrase, all right? So if we're playing a tune, an Afro-Cuban tune, in the verse, we have 3-2 clave, right? So we're playing along these nice 4-bar, 2-bar, 8-bar phrases with the 3-2 clave. What sometimes music does is they'll have a 1-bar turnaround or a 1-bar break going into the chorus of the tune. And now the chorus, because again our clave is a 2-beat pattern, now it starts on the second bar of clave. So now a chorus is a 2-3 clave pattern. Again, the clave does not change, the tune changes around clave. All right. So to me, a good way to explain this, if you have access to internet, which I'm assuming you all do, you can Google Dora the Explorer. When my kids were young, we watched Dora the Explorer, and there were 2 versions of the theme song. The first theme song really made me livid every time I heard it, because the clave changes all the way throughout the tune. They keep changing the clave to fit the tune. All right, and I'm assuming more than me complained about it, because when they redid the theme tune for it, they had the clave be consistent and the tune would fit with clave much, much better. And so I think somebody else had a problem with it. And considering that it's kind of a Latin, it's based in, I think, Central America, South America, you know, to get that right is kind of important. So again, clave is either 3-2 or 2-3 and doesn't change. All right. I guess I should talk about how I'm hitting these things. Let's go back to the one you probably have in your band room. All right, these sticks. To play clave, you don't want to do. That's not the sound we want. Okay, so to get the sound that you want, you have to take one of them and you have to create a kind of a resonating chamber with your I use my left hand. If you're left-handed, you use your right hand. Either or, and you suspend it on your fingertips and kind of the top of your thumb. So if I turn my hand upside down, the clave would fall out. Right? I'm just sitting on the top of my hand, it's just resting there, and I have a resonating chamber underneath. I'm not holding on to it. All right? It's sitting on my hand, all right, allowing itself to resonate. This, I'm going to hold it loosely in my right hand, but just like a regular snare drum stick, and when I hit it, okay, so you hear how resonant that is versus, all right, that's the sound that we want. Okay, and like I said, I don't like that sound as much as I like this sound, the lower sound. This one's a little different. This one has a cutout in it. All right, if I try to do that same kind of thing, it's not going to really sound great. So to this one, the way you play it is you take this hole here, and I'm cupping it right around the hole. It's similar, but I'm actually holding on to it. So again, if I turn my hand upside down, it's not going to fall out on this one. I'm going to cup it. I'm going to try to create as airtight of a resonating chamber as I can. All right, so I'm going to really create this resonating chamber here versus, you can hear the difference. Okay, so that's how you want to play the clave. You get that huge sound as big as you can. Again, with these, you have to grip it, kind of creating that tight fit around there, letting it resonate in your hand. Okay. So with the clave, there's 2 types of clave. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but if you look at your sheet, there's the son clave and the rumba clave. All right, the rumba clave is an older, more folkloric kind of clave. It's a little more syncopated. They're interchangeable. All right, some groups will have one tune that they use the son clave, one tune they use the rumba clave. All right. Long story short, The rumba clave is cool because it's actually a combination of 4/4 and 12/8 put over on top of each other. You can kind of hybridize that rhythm to fit both 12/8 and 4/4. We won't go into that now, but it's a really cool kind of almost swung version of it. So the rumba clave takes the last note of the 3 side and puts it an 8th note later. Okay, so here's the regular one that we did. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rumba clave moves that beat 4 to the and of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Moves it to the and of 4. So it's a little more syncopated. Sometimes it's harder to play that. Sometimes music will actually call for that. Usually they don't. Usually most of the stuff you're going to get in your jazz band in high school just sticks to that regular son clave. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Good. All right. Before we get to these, I want to talk about timbales, right? Because this rhythm really goes with that clave rhythm that establishes what we do on this instrument. So timbales, now, for those of you keeping track at home, and because I'm a timpanist, timbale, if you're playing Debussy or Ravel timpani parts in orchestra, at the top of the page it says timbales on your part. Timbale is French for timpani. All right, so you do not want to grab these out to play Ravel or Debussy. This is not the choice of instruments you want for that. But if you can imagine what a timpani looks like, these are very similar. They have the same origins. All right, it's a single-headed drum with a metal shell. All right, these happen to be open at the bottom, but it's the same concept. Okay, and these are set up the way timpani used to be set up, with the high on the right and the low on the left. You can switch that around if you need to, but if you're playing a traditional Afro-Cuban tune, ideally it's set up this way. You can switch it around and it's not that big of a deal, but it's handy to have it that way, okay? The interesting thing about timbales is their main function is to actually not play on the heads, but to play on the side, on the shells of the instrument. So I've got these dowel rods. These are a little thick. I like to use a little bit thinner, but this is what I had in my drawer today. So we're going to take these dowels, and instead of playing on the top of the drum, I'm going to spend most of my time playing on the side of the drum. Okay? I'd stand up, but my head's going to get cut off too much on the video, so I'm going to stay seated as much as I can, and then I'll stand up when I have to. So the rhythm that we want to play, and again, this is on your sheet if you want to take a look at it, is called the cascada. All right? This cascada fits in with the clave. Okay? So I'll demonstrate a 3/2 cascada pattern, and then we'll talk about how that fits in with the clave. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so that's the 3/2 clave. The 2/3 clave takes the second bar, does that first, and the first bar second. So we get this in the 2/3 clave. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so again, you get the 2 part on the first bar and the 3 part on the second bar. All right, so they go back and forth that way. Oftentimes, and it shows on the sheet here, we use our stick or oftentimes just our hand on the drum to kind of give us a counter melody. So I'm going to stand up and play it. So it's 3/2 clave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? We can use our stick, but if we do it, we want to be nice and soft. All right, nice and soft. We don't want this to be terribly loud. What's important is that, okay? So now, put that in relationship to the clave, and I will play clave with my left hand here, and I'll play my right hand, the cascada pattern, here, okay? So let's do a 3/2 clave. I want you to hear how they work together, okay? So I'll start with the clave. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, in the case reversing that, 2, 3 clave, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ideally, you can play either bar, either or, first or second. You can be able to play both the 3-2 and the 2-3 very evenly. I had a hard time remembering which rhythm was which when I was learning this, and so my little mnemonic device to myself was in the 3-2 cascada pattern. There are 3 notes in the first 2 beats of the pattern. So we have 1, 2, and. Right? The first 2 beats have 3 notes in it. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Right? In the 2-3 clave or cascada pattern, there are only 2 beats in the 2 notes in the first 2 beats. 1, 2, 3. All right. So 1, 2. There's 2 notes there. All right. So the 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Or the 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right. And it's good to be able to go back and forth. Okay. So that's kind of the main purpose of the timbales. The other secondary purpose, which is really important, is that this is kind of the drum set when it comes to the ends of phrases. Oftentimes, this is the instrument that plays little fills to set up the next section. Oftentimes, we have a cowbell and a cymbal attached to it. But the most important thing is that cascada pattern that fits with whatever we're doing. Okay? Good. All right, let's talk about congas. These are a really fun instrument to play, and like I said, this is going to tie in to some of the other instruments that we might talk about. This ties into African music. This ties into some of the sounds that we get with Middle Eastern music. It's the same idea. So, congas. C-O-N-G-A-S. Congas, all right, not congas, and not Congo, because that's a country. I don't pronounce it correctly, probably, but I grew up in the suburbs of Indiana, so I'm to be hopefully exonerated from that. So anyway, playing the congas. If we have 1 drum, it's a conga. If I have 1 drum only, it's conga, regardless of the size. If I have 2 drums, I have a quinto and a conga. Okay? If I have 3 drums, sometimes we have 3 drums. We have the quinta, top drum, the conga, and the tumba. All right? So you have the 3 different sounds. But if we just have 1 drum, conga, if you have 2, it's the quinto and the conga. All right? So the high one will be the quinto. All right? So typically we use 2 drums. Either they're on a stand or we sit and we play. I like to sit when I play. It works out well for the video. I really enjoy sitting while I play congas. It, to me, feels better. Okay? So first of all, if we're sitting on the ground, we have the congas sitting on the ground. On a wooden floor, which we're on here today, that works out pretty well. You can still hear the tones pretty well. On a carpeted floor, not so much. All right, so oftentimes conga players will travel with platforms to put underneath their drums to make sure they get a good sound. Okay, I have some platforms at home that I use to raise them up just a tiny bit if I'm playing on carpet. You can buy them. I made them out of a piece of plywood, and I took some caulk. And I created a complex X pattern so the drum sits on top of that and it's slightly off the ground so the air is able to escape. If you're on carpet and you have the drum sitting on carpet and you hit it, you're not really going to get that kind of a tone. So on the wood it kind of works out okay, but on carpet you're not going to get a very good sound. Okay. All right. So the there's 3 main techniques when we play congas, right? 3 strokes. And these go through all hand drums. Again, any hand drum that you come across, these 3 strokes are kind of part of what makes up the general way of playing it. First one is an open tone, right? The open tone is just like on snare drum or bass drum, big open tone to get a nice big sound. We want the most resonant open sound we can get. On congas, what I'm going to do, with my hand, again, of course, we're going to use our hands to hit the drum. We don't drum. The rim of the drum is going to hit me right along here, right along my pads of my hands here. All right. I'm going to keep my hand fairly stiff. I wouldn't say tight, but stiff. So that when I hit the drum, I'm going to hit it right there. The pads of my fingers, just because of momentum, are going to momentarily come down. They're going to hit the drum, but then because I'm kind of holding them stiff, they're going to immediately come back up, like our free rebound on snare drum. All right? They're going to hit the drum, they're going to come down, hit the drum, and come right back up. And the idea is to get off the head as quickly as possible so that it resonates. All right? So your open tone. Okay? You'll notice I'm using an arm stroke. All right? To play this instrument, you need arm strokes more than wrist. All right? You're not going to get the sound you want. It's going to be small and thin if you use wrist. Using your arm, you want as much mass as possible. All right? I always think about, imagine yourself being this really large person eating burritos, just really getting nice big sounds out of it. Okay? Really you want that big tone. All right? So I'm kind of a small dude, so I have to work on generating enough mass to get a good sound out of it. Okay? So you kind of want to think about mass when you're playing, heaviness as much as possible. All right, again, so I'm hitting the drum right about here. My fingers are coming down, hitting the head, and coming back up. Okay? The one that's related to that is the slap. Okay? The slap is one of the most difficult strokes to play, and I'm probably not going to be flawless on it today. But the slap is a really important note. Now, what we do, we oftentimes mistake a slap for an accented note. It can be accented, but if we always accent these slaps, we're going to hurt ourselves, all right? So when you play this instrument, where you're going to hurt yourself is going to be on your slaps, if you're beating the drum too hard to get that sound, okay? So to do a slap, the real easy way to do it, and again, I say easy, but this takes a long time to really generate the feel for it. I'm going to hit it exactly the same way I did with my open strokes. Exactly the same way. All I'm going to do is relax my hand. All right? If I relax my hand, what's going to happen is my fingers are going to come down, the tips of my fingers are going to hit the drum, and because I'm relaxed, they're going to actually stay on the drum. All right? They're not going to bounce off as much because I'm not keeping my hands stiff. So to do a slap, so I'm keeping my hands relaxed, and they're staying on the drum. Now, some people will do the opposite, and they'll tense up. Ouch, that hurts. They'll tense up to get that sound to happen. Don't do that. You'll do exactly what I just did. That really hurt my hand, okay? If I stay relaxed and just let my hands fall into the head, again, we don't need a really loud sound. We don't want it to be screaming. Right? We can do that, but generally we don't. All right? 9 times out of 10, you're going to slap with your right hand, but it's a good idea to work on it with your left hand. I'm not going to be very good with my left hand. All right, it's good to be able to do both. Right hands and left hands, okay? It's good to be able to do both of them. All right, so open, slap, open, slap. Now, open's fairly easy. Most of us can figure that out. Slap, I remember learning the slap, and I would sit down slowly on the drum, and I would be, nope, 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 all terrible notes, and then I finally, and I'm like, how did that happen? Like 1 out of every 100 strokes was right, okay? And then I tried to assess and figure out in my head what I did, and I was wrong, of course. Still screwing it up. And eventually, after about a week or two, I got to the point where I could be consistent with the slap sound. I could be a lot more consistent. The goal is, of course, to practice every day, which I have not practiced these every day recently, is you're 100% accurate on all your slaps. be able to get that to come out, okay? And we'll talk about a cheater way to slap when we get into the beat. The third stroke we want to do is the bass tone, and all this is the whole hand in the middle of the drum, sticking it into the drum. Okay, so it's a low thud, and it's a muffled tone with my hand playing into the drum, all right? We don't use this nearly as much as we use the other two strokes, but it's a good stroke to have, and we do talk about it on the other instruments, okay? So open, slap, and bass tone. All right. Oh, we should talk about tuning a little bit. A couple of things. One, so these drums are, these are both LP congas, which are good. LP congas, you can't go wrong with that. They have a secondary line called CP, I believe they still exist, Cosmic Percussion. Those are fine. There are other companies out there that make congas that are also fine too. These are good. These happen to be fiberglass drums, which work just fine. These are the potato models. They're fiberglass. I have wooden drums at home, which I like, but they're all good, okay? As far as heads, almost, you know, we talked about in timpani and snare drum and everything, how we used to use calf heads, and then in the late 50s, we went to plastic heads. These instruments sound so much better with calf heads, and you can kind of still make them work with calf heads, all right? This head happens to be a plastic head. This head is a calf head. I like the sound of this. This sounds fine, but to me, this felt and sounded better, all right? On our bongos, we also have calf heads. And when you buy heads, they're not much more expensive than plastic. In fact, I think they're about the same price almost. The only thing you have to worry about is that when you go from winter to summer, and vice versa, you want to make sure that you don't split a head. All right, this head was split because what happens is you tighten it up in the summertime when it's humid, tighten it up so it sounds good, and then in the wintertime when the humidity plummets, right, the pitch of the head will go up, just like the back of your hand gets nice and dry. Pitch of the head goes up, and it splits, all right, and then you can ruin your head. So you want to make sure to have a 1/2-inch wrench. All of these have 1/2-inch bolts on them to change the pitch of your head. And it's good to have them all the time. So if you show up to a gig, you want to change the pitch, you can change the tuning of the drum however you want, okay? All right, the beat, the main beat on this instrument is called the tumbao. All right, and again, it's showed on your page. This is the second page of the handout. The T-U-M-B-A-O, the tumbao. And it uses a technique in the left hand that we haven't talked about, but it's basically using the same concepts, all right? So your left hand is going to rock back and forth. All right, so when I'm rocking, the cool thing is that this is actually a bass tone, and this is a slap. So you want to think about bass, slap, bass, slap. Now it's light and it's not heavy. Light is of course not heavy. But we kind of want to think about that. Now, when you're rotating your hand, what's really, really, really important is that you don't rotate like this. Your axis is not in the middle of your hand, right? It's not rocking back and forth. You have two hinges. One hinge is here, one hinge is here. All right, so if I want to play the front of my hand, if I want to play my fingers, what I call toes, we call this the toe. I want to play with my toe, I'm going to rotate here and play my toe. When I play with my heel, we're going to rotate here and play here. So we have this. Okay, it's not that, all right? The idea, you want to make sure to get as much hand on the drum as possible, okay? All right, so I'm going to play the pattern, and I'm going to we can describe it. So again, looking at the sheet, you have H's, T's, O's, and basses, and then S's. There's a legend there. It tells you how that goes. So we're going to do the 3-2 tumbao, okay? This is going to be your quarter note. I'll play a little slower so we can hear it, okay? This is the quarter note, okay? 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you might notice on beat 2 of that bar, the first bar, I do a slap versus an open. You can do an open, you can do a slap. I like doing a slap, okay? So, slowly, heel, toe. Again, I'll do a slap there. Heel, toe, slap, toe. Oh, sorry. Heel, toe, slap, open, open, bass, open, open. Heel, toe, slap, open, open, bass, open, open. Okay, and in the second bar, heel, toe, slap, toe, heel, toe, open, open. Heel, toe, slap, toe, heel, toe, open, open. Okay, so the 2 bars together, 2, 3, 4. Okay, normally taking that at normal dance tempo, 2, 1, 2, 3, Now you'll notice when I slap, I have only one slap with my right hand, all right, in each bar, maybe only one in the whole bar, the whole tune, depending on how you interpret that. So anyway, but when I slap, my left hand is on the drum when I'm slapping. All right, that really helps to get a really good, it's like kind of a cheater way to get a slap. It's much harder to slap like that than it is with my hand on the drum. It's super, super easy slapping your hands on the drum. So it kind of helps when you play it right. Play that, okay? Now, of course, you can also do 2, 3. Okay, again that 2, 3 clave, and of course that goes with our cascada on the timbales. Okay, so good. All right, so open, slap, bass, rocking your hand back and forth, and the timbale pattern, 3, 2. Okay. All right. I want to just go briefly, quickly over a couple different other patterns. One's the wawanko. Okay. Timbale works for about 90% of the Latin tunes you're going to do, maybe even 95%. Right. So that's your go-to beat. It's kind of like your jazz beat. It's going to work for all your jazz tunes. All right. These other tunes are kind of variations, different types of tunes. Wawanko. We're going to do the 2, 3 first. We'll do the 2, 3 first, and then the 3, 2. Okay. So 1, 2, 1, 2. It's hard to sing the clave and play at the same time. 2. Of course, you can turn that around. 2, 1, 2. Oh, sorry. Okay, and of course, there's tons of variations on all of these things that you can do. Okay, the sango. Okay. So we can go on, and then we have one more beat, the Afro-Cuban beat on the last page. I'm not going to really go over that because that's putting it into 12/6/8, and that's a whole other chapter that we don't really need to go into. But I do want to talk about the bongos and how the bongos relate to the congas. So bongos, small, obviously, smaller versions, calf heads if you can get them. Left, or the high drum is on your left, low drum is on your right, right? High drum on your left, low drum on your right. I should have mentioned that. Same thing with the bongos. High drum on your left, low drum on your right. You want to make sure there's a nice and high pitched. All right, that's not maybe necessarily high enough. It's pretty good. Or you don't want them much lower than that. Okay, if they're low, obviously tune them up. Again, a 1/2 wrench is what tunes them up. You can put this on a stand, which makes it really easy to play, or you can play it down here. If you're playing in Afro-Cuban bands, oftentimes they'll play it on their laps here, unless they're playing other stuff, of course. Obviously, this could be uncomfortable, especially if I'm wearing shorts. I don't even know if you can see this. I'm going to lower the camera so you can actually see that. Just making sure. So I'm going to put them on my legs like this. I'm going to hold them here, high on my left, low on my right. The pattern is very similar to the tumbao, but it's simpler and it's smaller because our drum is smaller. So we actually have to think about using our thumb and our index fingers, okay? So I'm going to use my left hand. Instead of using my whole hand to go back and forth, I'm going to use my index finger and my thumb. With my right hand, I'm going to use mainly my index finger, okay? And the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. So my left hand is rocking back and forth. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay. Same idea, and again, I'm using my index finger, all right, to get the same sound, but I would use my whole hand with these because it's a smaller instrument. If we use our whole hand, and again, I'm coming off the drum as much as I can. We don't really go into doing slaps on this. It's mainly that open note versus, or except for where we're rocking our hand back and forth. Okay, so that's your bongo technique. Again, oftentimes we put it on a stand, and that's great if you can do that, or you can do this too if you don't have a stand. But don't put it on a table, because if you put it on a table, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to come out like you want it to. All right, good. I want to talk about some shaker concepts, and then we're going to get into kind of the other world drum ideas. I'm going to raise this up a little bit here. All right, so shaker. This is kind of important because oftentimes, even in your concert band, you're going to need a shaker. All right, so playing a shaker is a pretty important skill. So typically, when we play a shaker, we think about, I'm going to do this sideways so you can see. We think about 1, E, and up. All right, so the pulse, if we're thinking 16th notes, 1, E, and up. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and, of course, if we're thinking and, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Why do we do that? 2 reasons. 1, it helps me accent the beat. Okay, I'm accenting that pulse. By going up and out, it helps me kind of push and accent that. The other thing is, you'll notice there's a slur in that phrase, right? Right? That slur is not super in time, all right? I'm going to play it again. I want you to hear how it's not quite metronomically perfect. All right, so if you're playing something that has a groove to it, that helps that groove be appropriate or more realistic, okay? We really don't want it to be perfect. We don't want Right? That's too static and perfect. We want that groove, and so that globe idea in the phrase, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that really helps that phrase happen. So again, up and out, E, down and out, and up. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, 2, 1 E. Now, what if we have to be exact? What if you're playing a concert band, or even sometimes you're playing in a jazz band, and the tempo is too slow, right, to really get a nice groove that way, or the part is written in a way where it has to be exact. I need to be metrically perfect, okay? It's hard to do that with this, and again, even if I'm trying to be perfect, and doing that slowly is hard. The beats are going back and forth, right? That's not quite perfect, okay? So, what we do sometimes to make it more perfect, we get these, all right? These are the LP one-shots. I love these. These are super, super helpful and have saved me many times when I've had a shaker part. What these are shakers. Has a little thumb print. You put your thumb on the thumb print. It's a shaker that makes a sound only in one direction. All right, so it's silent on the back. All right, so you buy 2 of them, you can't buy 1, you have to have 2, all right? And now I can play these like a snare drum. I can play any rhythm I want. All right, a lot more exact. So if I have to play complete metronomically perfect 8th notes, I need something that's a little more static and a little more perfect, these are a great tool to have. So these are the LP one-shots. Really, really cool. Because it's really hard to play shakers completely. Okay, playing them quite that accurately. Okay, good. All right, so we're talking about how the conga technique relates to other world music techniques. The concepts are really the same. There's really not a lot of difference because you're still dealing with the same kind of thing, same object, right? So this is a tar. This is a North African frame drum. A frame drum, the definition of a frame drum is a drum, single-headed, usually single-headed, doesn't have to always be single-headed. A drum where the diameter of the drum is deeper than the depth of the shell. Okay, usually it's single-headed, okay? So a frame drum, and there's no jingles, right? So it's not a tambourine, we call this a frame drum. All right, this happens to be, like I said, a tar. This is a Remo version of it. There's all kinds of different things. But the same sounds that we got on this, we can get on this, all right? We have our open tone. And you can get that any way you want. I'm using the side of my thumb. Right? I can hold it here and play the same kind of technique. Okay? If I have a djembe, one of those Remo djembes, same idea, same concept. Okay? We have the slap. Okay? And we have bass tones. Okay? So we get that same concept, open, slap, bass tone. Okay. Okay. With this, what I like to do, I like to play it. You can play it holding it like this. I like to put it on my lap, play it like this. This is Glenn Velez, is a great hand drummer. Taught me how to do this, and so it's not rocket science. A lot of people do this, You're able to play on the edge of the drum to get a high-pitched tone out of the edge of the drum, but I can also snap with my fingers and hit the drum. So I'm snapping, usually I snap with my ring finger, and I hit the drum to get that pitch, okay? So if I were to play something, and again, same concepts as the conga, just a little bit more, I don't know, fancy if you want to call it, whatever it is. But it's not that big of a, not that hard to do. And this is really a fun instrument to play because it's nice and soft to kind of play and just to kind of figure out some strokes and some rhythms kind of on your own. It's not super handy in a band because it's too quiet. And I've never seen, I'm sure there are frame drum solos that have been used with jazz bands. But typically you're just going to be doing this kind of on your own. You might notice it kind of looks like a boron, which is the Irish frame drum, but those are typically played with a stick. You can play it with your hands, but typically those are played with sticks, which is a different technique. So, good. I think that is all we need to talk about. I think that kind of concludes our thing. Again, I'll have the sheet put up on the available to you so you can take a look at it and kind of feel free to print it out and use it as much as you want. It's a great handy sheet, similar to the drum set sheet. You can play all the beats that are on this. There's pretty much nothing in jazz band that you can't play on timbales or congas, no styles that you can't fit into. So great, thank you very much. Now for my methods class, don't go away. My methods class, 3 questions, right? What is the main rhythm that we play on the congas? What's it called? What does clave mean? And can you tell me the difference between a 3-2 clave and a 2-3 clave? And what are the 3 main strokes that all hand percussion uses, whether it's this, timbales, tar, djembe, whatever? What are the 3 main strokes that we use on all those instruments? Okay? So, what is the name of the rhythm we play on congas? The main rhythm, one that we spend a lot of time going over. What is clave? And tell me what 3-2 versus 2-3 clave is, and what are the 3 strokes that we find on all instruments. Great, thank you very much.